I almost had a heart attack when I saw the picture. I was scrolling through Instagram on a Tuesday afternoon, my 2-year-old Lily napping on my lap, when I saw something that made my blood run cold. My younger sister, Ariana, had posted a selfie from what looked like an expensive hotel room. She was beaming with a satisfied smile on her face. The selfie caption read, "Treating myself to spa weekend and a nice time with someone special." But it wasn't her radiant smile that stopped me mid-scroll. It was what was sitting on the bed behind her, a leather wallet that I'd bought my husband Sydney for his birthday last year. The same wallet with the distinctive scratch on the corner from when our son Ethan had tried to fix it with his toy screwdriver. I was stunned. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. There had to be an explanation. Maybe Sydney had dropped his wallet somewhere and Ariana found it. Maybe she was returning it to him. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me after months of sleep deprivation and the isolated routine of stay-at-home motherhood. I screenshotted the photo and zoomed in, studying every pixel. The wallet was definitely Sydney's, sitting casually on rumpled hotel sheets like it belonged there. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. Ariana was my little sister, the one I'd helped through college, the one who called me crying over bad breakups. And Sydney? He worked late, sure, but he was building his career for our family. He'd never risk everything we'd built together. So I thought. But what I found out 2 days later shattered my life. My name is Amelia Polish. I'm 32 years old, a former marketing executive who gave up my rising career at a Chicago advertising agency to raise my children. My husband, Sydney, 36, is a successful attorney whose star has been ascending rapidly at one of Chicago's most prestigious law firms. To everyone who knew us, we looked like the American dream, the perfect family in our Lincoln Park townhouse, complete with successful husband, devoted wife, and 2 beautiful children. 2 days after the wallet incidents, my paranoia became certainty. Ariana posted another photo, this one of her wrist adorned with a delicate gold bracelet. My gold bracelet. The one Sydney had given me for our 3rd wedding anniversary, inscribed with Forever S in his neat handwriting. The same bracelet that had mysteriously disappeared from my jewelry box 3 weeks earlier. I'd torn the house apart looking for it, even asked Sydney if he'd seen it. He'd shrugged and suggested maybe the cleaning lady had moved it. There it was, gleaming on my sister's wrist like a trophy. I hardly ever wore it. I reserved it for special occasions as it was so precious to me. Ariana obviously didn't know it was mine. My hands started shaking as I took a screenshot this photo too. I was immediately interrupted by Lily's loud cry. She was trying to pry her small toy box open, but it wasn't budging. I gently opened the box for her and walked to the kitchen, needing space to breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. My husband and my sister? The 2 people I trusted most in the world? That night, after Sydney came home from his client dinner at 11 p.m., smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine, I knew I had to confirm my suspicion. I wasn't going to confront them till I was sure they were having an affair. I began to dig into them. Screenshots of Ariana's social media posts, complete with timestamps. Photos of Sydney's credit card statements showing charges at restaurants and hotels on dates when he claimed to be working late. I even started a simple spreadsheet tracking his work nights against Ariana's mysterious girls' nights out. The pattern was devastatingly clear. For the past 4 months, every time Sydney had a supposed client emergency, Ariana would post about her fabulous night out. Every time he worked late, she'd share photos from expensive restaurants. They weren't even trying to hide it. They just assumed I was too trusting or too busy with the kids to notice. But here's what really got me. I discovered that Sydney had been charging their dates to his business account, writing them off as client entertainment. My husband wasn't just cheating on me with my sister. He was essentially making me complicit by using our joint tax returns to subsidize their affair. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening. I was giving Ethan his bath when I heard Sydney on the phone in our bedroom. His voice was low, intimate in a way that made my stomach turn. I can't wait to see you tomorrow night, he was saying. The Peninsula again? Perfect. I'll pick you up at 7. The Peninsula. One of Chicago's most expensive hotels. The same one where Ariana had taken that first selfie. I finished Ethan's bath routine on autopilot, my mind racing. Tomorrow was Thursday, the night I had my book club. Sydney knew I'd be out until at least 10. They were getting bolder, more careless. And that's when I realized they weren't just having an affair anymore. They were planning something bigger. I called in sick to book club and asked my neighbor Janet to watch the kids. Then I drove to the Peninsula and waited in the lobby bar, tucked into a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. At exactly 7:15 p.m., Sydney walked in wearing his best suit, the one I'd helped him pick out for his biggest case last year. 5 minutes later, Ariana arrived in a red dress I'd never seen before, her hair professionally styled. They embraced like lovers who'd been apart for weeks, not siblings-in-law who saw each other at family dinners. Sydney's hand lingered on the small of her back as they walked to the elevator. The intimacy between them was unmistakable. This wasn't a new affair. This was an established relationship, complete with inside jokes and comfortable touches. I sat in that hotel bar for 2 hours, nursing a single glass of wine and watching the elevator doors. When they finally emerged, Ariana was wearing my missing gold bracelet, and Sydney had that satisfied look I used to think was reserved for me. I followed them outside and watched Sydney put her in an Uber before driving home to me. He arrived at 10:30 p.m., claiming he'd been stuck in the office dealing with a difficult client. He even kissed my forehead and asked about book club. That night, lying next to my cheating husband while he slept peacefully, I made a decision. I wasn't going to file for divorce quietly and split our assets 50-50 while they rode off into the sunset together. I wasn't going to let them rewrite history and make me the bitter ex-wife who just couldn't handle Sydney's success. They had humiliated me in private. Now I was going to return the favor in public. But I needed the perfect stage. The opportunity came 3 days later when Ariana posted an Instagram story that made my pulse quicken. She was excited about attending a live taping of Real Talk with Miranda, Chicago's most popular relationship podcast. The show was filmed in front of a live audience and streamed online to over 200,000 viewers every week. Better yet, the format included a segment where audience members could share their own relationship stories on stage. Ariana had tagged Sydney in the story, mentioning how much she was looking forward to their date night. The arrogance was breathtaking. They were going to sit in the audience of a relationship show while carrying on their affair. I researched everything about the show. Host Miranda Bennett was known for her no-nonsense approach to relationship drama. The audience participation segment, Tell Your Truth, was always the most watched part of each episode. Stories from that segment regularly went viral on social media. I submitted my application to tell a story, keeping the details vague. A woman discovers her husband's betrayal with someone she trusted. It was approved within 24 hours. The taping was scheduled for the following Friday night. I had 6 days to prepare, and I used every one of them. I practiced my story dozens of times, timing it perfectly for maximum impact. I researched the show's social media patterns, their hashtags, their typical audience reactions. I even prepared backup plans in case they tried to cut me off or escort me out. But most importantly, I prepared my evidence. Not just screenshots this time, I had something that would make denial impossible. Friday arrived gray and drizzly, typical Chicago weather that matched my mood perfectly. I'd arranged for Janet to watch the kids overnight, telling Sydney I was having a girls' night with some college friends who were in town. He was suspiciously supportive, even suggesting I stay out late and have fun. Of course he was. It gave him and Ariana more time together. I arrived at the studio early, checking in with production and getting my audience wristband. The venue was intimate, maybe 200 seats arranged in a semicircle around a small stage. I'd specifically requested a seat in the back corner where I could observe without being noticed. At 7:30 p.m., Sydney and Ariana arrived. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Sydney was in his charcoal suit, the one that made his eyes look particularly blue. They chose seats in the fourth row, close enough to be seen by the cameras, but not so close as to draw unwanted attention. They were holding hands. I watched my husband and my sister act like the perfect couple while sitting in the audience of a relationship show, and I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. They'd made their choice. Now, I was going to make mine. The show started with Miranda's typical energy and warmth. She discussed the night's topic, when trust is broken, with her usual blend of humor and insight. The first hour flew by as she interviewed a celebrity guest about their recent divorce, then took questions from the audience. Finally, it was time for Tell Your Truth. Miranda explained the segment to the live stream audience. This is where real people share real stories about love, loss, and everything in between. Tonight, we have several brave souls ready to be vulnerable with us. The first storyteller was a man in his 50s talking about rebuilding trust after a financial betrayal by his business partner. The second was a young woman sharing her journey of leaving an emotionally abusive relationship. Both stories were powerful, raw, and well-received by the audience. Then Miranda called my name. Our next storyteller is Amelia Polish. Amelia, come on up and tell us your truth. I felt Sydney and Ariana both turn toward the stage as I stood up. In the studio lights, I couldn't see their faces clearly yet, but I could imagine their confusion. What was Amelia doing here? Why hadn't she mentioned this? I walked calmly to the stage, my heels clicking on the polished floor. Miranda handed me the microphone and gestured to the simple stool at center stage. I sat down, adjusted the mic, and looked out at the audience. Thank you, Miranda. I began, my voice steady and clear. My story is about trust, about the people we choose to let into our hearts and homes, and what happens when they choose to betray that trust in the most intimate way possible. I could see Sydney and Ariana now, their faces pale in the stage lights. Ariana's hand was pressed to her mouth. Sydney looked like he was calculating escape routes. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children, I continued. For the past 5 years, I've been a stay-at-home mom, supporting my husband's career while raising our family. I gave up my own professional dreams to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother. I trusted completely and loved unconditionally. The audience was engaged now, leaning forward. This was the kind of story they came to hear. But trust, as I've learned, can be a dangerous thing when it's misplaced. 2 weeks ago, I discovered that my husband of 7 years has been having an affair. And not just any affair, he's been sleeping with my younger sister. Gasps rippled through the audience. The camera operators shifted to capture crowd reactions. In the live stream chat, I could see comments exploding. The betrayal was devastating enough, I said, my voice growing stronger. But what made it worse was how careless they'd become. How arrogant. They were documenting their relationship on social media, wearing my jewelry, using our family money to fund their romance. They assumed I was too trusting, too distracted, too dependent to ever fight back. Ariana was crying now, her perfectly applied makeup streaming down her cheeks. Sydney was gripping the armrests of his chair, his knuckles white. But here's what they didn't know about me, I said, standing up from the stool and walking toward the edge of the stage. Before I became a devoted wife and mother, I was a marketing executive. I built my career on understanding people's motivations, on crafting narratives, on controlling how stories get told. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. So when I discovered their betrayal, I didn't just get angry. I got strategic. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I documented everything. Credit card receipts from their hotel visits, screenshots of their social media posts, photos of my stolen jewelry appearing on my sister's Instagram feed. Miranda, to her credit, was letting me tell my story without interruption. She knew good television when she saw it. But the most important thing I learned is that secrets have power only as long as they stay secret. Once you drag them into the light, they become just another story that people tell. I opened the envelope and pulled out a large photograph, the family portrait we'd taken at my parents' barbecue last summer. All of us smiling at the camera. Me, Sydney, Ariana, Ethan, and Lily. "This man," I said, holding up the photo so the cameras could see it clearly, "is Sydney Polish, a partner at Morrison, Webb & Associates here in Chicago. He was recently featured in the Tribune for his courtroom victories." Sydney half stood from his seat, as if he was going to rush the stage, but the crowd's reaction kept him frozen. People were pulling out phones, taking photos, whispering excitedly. "And this woman," I continued, pointing to Ariana in the photo, "is Ariana Brandy, my sister. She works in social media marketing and has been documenting their affair on Instagram for months." The live stream chat was going absolutely wild now. Comments were flying by too fast to read, but I could see names being mentioned, screenshots being shared. "They're both here tonight, actually," I said, my voice carrying across the silent studio. "Fourth row, center." They thought they were coming to enjoy a date night at a relationship show. Instead, they get to be the main attraction. Every camera in the place swiveled towards Sydney and Ariana. The audience turned in their seats to stare. Phones came out. Flash bulbs popped. They were trapped in their seats, caught like deer in headlights. "You see," I said, walking back to the center of the stage, "they made a critical mistake. They assumed I would suffer in silence, that I would take whatever settlement their lawyers offered and disappear quietly. They thought the mother of 2 small children would be too scared, too dependent, too broken to fight back." I set the family photo down on Miranda's desk and looked directly into the main camera. "But I'm not broken. I'm not afraid. And I'm definitely not going to be quiet." I paused, letting that sink in. My husband and my sister betrayed me in private. Tonight, I'm returning the favor in public. The applause started slowly, one person, then another, then the entire audience was on their feet. Miranda was grinning, knowing she'd just witnessed the kind of television moment that would be talked about for years. I handed the microphone back to Miranda and walked off the stage, leaving the family photo behind as evidence of what they'd destroyed. I didn't stay to watch the chaos that followed. As I pushed through the studio's exit doors, I could hear the commotion behind me, voices raised, phones ringing, Miranda trying to restore order to her show. But I was already gone, walking into the cool Chicago night air feeling lighter than I had in months. By the time I got home, the video clips were already spreading across social media. Hashtag Sydney Polish and hashtag ArianaB were trending on Twitter. The story was being picked up by gossip blogs and local news outlets. Within 24 hours, it would be national news. Janet met me at the door, her eyes wide with excitement and concern. "Amelia, honey," she said, "my phone has been ringing nonstop. Reporters are calling, your parents called, even some lawyer from Sydney's firm. What happened tonight?" I smiled for the first time in weeks, a real smile, not the fake one I'd been wearing for months. "I told the truth," I said simply. Finally. The divorce proceedings that followed were swift and decisive. Sydney's law firm, horrified by the public scandal, encouraged him to settle quickly and quietly. He couldn't afford a drawn-out legal battle that would keep the story in the news. I got the house, full custody of the kids, and enough alimony to ensure I'd never have to depend on anyone again. More importantly, I got my voice back. Ariana tried to reach out once, sending a long text message full of apologies and excuses. I deleted it without reading past the first line. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, and some relationships aren't worth saving. 6 months later, I opened my own marketing consultancy, specializing in crisis communication and reputation management. Turns out, there's a high demand for someone who knows how to control narratives and manage public scandals. Who would have thought? Sydney moved to Denver, supposedly for a fresh start. Ariana deleted all her social media accounts and moved to Portland. They're not together anymore, Apparently, relationships built on betrayal don't have strong foundations. The kids and I are thriving in our house in Lincoln Park. Ethan is in first grade now, excelling in reading and math. Lily started preschool and is already showing signs of the same stubborn independence that served me so well that night at the studio. Sometimes, late at night when the kids are asleep, I think about that moment on stage when I held up our family photo and told the truth about what it really represented. It wasn't revenge, exactly. Revenge implies anger, a desire to cause pain for its own sake. What I did was justice. I gave their secret relationship the same publicity they'd been giving it on social media, just with a bigger audience. I used their own arrogance and carelessness against them. I turned their story into my story, and I made sure it was told correctly. The best part? Every time someone Googles Sydney Polish or Ariana Brandy, they'll find that video. Their betrayal is now permanently part of their digital footprint, a reminder of who they chose to be when they thought no one was watching. I didn't destroy their lives. I just made sure their choices had consequences. And as for me, I'm building something new. Something honest. Something mine. The perfect revenge, it turns out, isn't about making other people suffer. It's about refusing to suffer in silence, taking control of your own story, and building a life so good that their betrayal becomes just another chapter in your success story. They thought they were writing my ending. Instead, they gave me the perfect beginning.